Welcome, friends. Left or right? Left or right? Make your pick. Very important. So the right one is a map generated by Vanilla 7 Days to Die, the client itself. And as you can tell, it looks kind of crappy. The left one is generated by KingGen, which is another map generation tool developed by Kingslayer. Now you might have used probably the vanilla because that's usually what people do when they generate maps, but look at how much better it can look. If you've used something like Nitrogen, you probably will be fairly familiar with using a different map generator. The downside is, of course, that Nitrogen seems to be somewhat abandoned. We're not really sure whether it's going to make it into Alpha 20. So someone else has actually been making a really cool map generator. And you can see how the biomes are laid out. We have the green, which is obviously the forest. And then we have some wasteland and we have some desert and stuff like that. Snow biome. Compared to that really, really terrible one of vanilla. Come on. Fun Pims, your map used to be a lot better, but this is atrocious. I mean, green in the middle, and then you have a desert, snow, and then desert, wasteland, and burnt forest. It's like the vanilla map generation gets worse and worse. But anyway, so this time I'm going to go through how to generate a much better map using KingGen. So the first thing you have to do is that you have to go to the link that I'm putting, which is actually a post in 7 Days to Die forum, community forum, where he provides a download and information on how to run it and get it done. There's basically Windows and a Linux download that you have to do. Now this, basically you click on it and it will take you to a SourceForge where you can actually download it as well. So save it down somewhere on your hard disk, don't lose it, and then you simply run it. Now Windows might be complaining that, hey, this is sort of a not recognized software, which is the case because it's not an officially signed one. It is made by a person who's made the Kingslayer. So if you are really concerned about running EXEs, you might want to make sure you don't do that. I haven't had any issues with it and I haven't heard anyone else having an issue. So the first thing to keep in mind when you're generating is that you need to give it a name. So I'm going to give this Ved2. I've just made a Ved1. You can then choose what size of map you're going to do. I'm going to do a 4K one because otherwise it just takes longer. And you can put in the seed. Let's do 42. Now you can basically just generate it like this, or you can open the advanced settings. And here you'll see a bunch of things that you can configure. How many traders you want to have, more, medium, or decreased, or none. Their location, cities, wilderness, anywhere, which actually matters. Number of PIs in the wild. If you do have a custom list, you can actually make a custom list if you're, for instance, using a mod pack, be it Darkness Falls or something else that has a custom POI list that you can load in. It works. You can choose how the border should look. You can choose cities, towns, villages. Do you want to have large cities? I like large cities. Do you want to have a lot of them? Or do you want to have few or none? You can choose some of the layout, the elevation, where the cities are, and then landscaping. Do you want to have just a single? If you only want to play, let's say you want to do a wasteland only run, you can choose that. Just say wasteland only. We're going to do none because we want to have a little bit of everything. And then you can sort of define how much do you want to have of each. And I'm going to have less for the burnt forest because I don't think burnt forest is really that interesting. Keep the wasteland and the lakes and everything. Terrain roughness, I'm going to have it increased. I want to have a little bit more terrain roughness, meaning elevation changes, hills and stuff like that. Spacing, let's do medium, just a regular one. You can then change things up. Advanced customization, height map. Do you want to have a lot of smoothing, meaning do you want to have the transition from the flatness to the mountains, and how do you want to handle that? What's the default biome, which you can also define because that's the one that's going to have the most of it, and things like that. You can customize. There's a lot of customization in there. You want to skip the preview and how many spawn points do you want to have. Sometimes you might want to have just one spawn point. Let's say you want to play with your friends, you want everyone to spawn in the same place, you can choose that as well. And of course you can select the output folder, but we're going to just go with this, and then we're going to do back, and we're going to do generate world. Now you know that if you generate a world in vanilla, it takes quite a while for it to work. I think it's something between 5 and 15 minutes. It's just so slow, unfortunately. Now I'm making a 4K map here, which should be a lot faster, and as you can see, After 13 seconds, it has already generated one, and here's what it looks like. You'll see we have our forest nicely spaced out here with some mountains on the side, and then we have some deserts, and of course we have some, I think this is this, actually I don't know what that is. Maybe it's burnt forest and this one is wasteland, or vice versa or something. And 13 seconds later. So now you might go like, hey, I didn't like it. Most of the cities are outside the desert. Not a problem. Let's do that. Let's generate another one. Let's change the seed, because the seed will determine basically the look of it. And because it's so fast to generate, I can do this really simply because it's 4K. If you're doing an 8K or 10K, a full course, it's going to take a little bit more than 13 seconds, but it's still so much shorter than running a vanilla map. And you see here, and you might go, hey, this is not bad. It's got some 3 large cities on the east side. You know, the distribution of the different biomes and everything is really nice. So you might say, hey, you know, let's go with this one. Let's go with this one. So let's say you've now generated Vedui and you want to play this one. Well, there's a couple of things to do if you want to play it in single player or if you want to play it in a multiplayer setting. So first thing you want to do open KingGen worlds, because this will take you to where the actual world is that it has generated. Now I put this in the same location as the rest of my stuff, but you click that and you can do open 7 days to die worlds, which opens up another folder. And all you do is that you take this one and you pull it over, move it over, done. Now you actually have it accessible in the generated worlds, because that's where it has to belong. So you can actually choose it when you start playing single player. I'm going to do that in a little bit. What if you're playing on a server? How do you do it if you want to play this on a server? Actually, pretty simply. You need to go to your game install, your server install, and you have to configure serverconfig.xml, which looks something like this. If you've done servers before, well, you probably know how it works. If you're using a hosted server, it'll be something similar. It might be called something differently, but every server has all these settings. Now, if you don't know how to set up a dedicated server, you can check on my description below. I will link a couple of videos where you can do a dedicated server either yourself on your local PC, for instance, or a hosted one, so you actually can learn how to do that. But what you can look at is down here at gameplay. So game world is where you normally specify Navigain or RWG if you want to have a random world generated. But in this case, we already have done one. So what we're going to simply do is put in Vedui. Now the C doesn't matter because it's not generating something. The size matters. It has to match what we actually generated, which was a 4K map, which is 4096. Game name doesn't matter. It was called my new test game. And that's it. Of course, you have to configure everything else. But this basically tells it to, now it's going to go looking for a generator world that is called Vedui. And of course, if you remember, that's exactly what ours is called, Vedui. So that's easy for it to find. And then it will create it based on what's already been generated. Now, how do we do it if we're just playing single player? Easy. Do new game. We're going to do my new test game. Or new test game, if I can actually type. And we're going to be looking through a random world and all the different ones until we find, oh, there we have it, Vedui. Because the vanilla game will also be able to pick it up because you have it in the generated worlds folder. And then we can basically, let's do a quick check. We're going to have persistent profiles. We're going to have cheat mode on. We're going to start it. And it's just going to load it in. It's going to start a new game using the generated world. And here we are. You can tell this a newly generated one because the map border is basically a mountain, which means that it's easy to see. You can have water and stuff like that. I just made this to make it a little bit easier to identify. So you can definitely tell it's something that's been generated by KingGen. And if we go back to this one, you'll see that as well. You'll see around it is this mountain border that is basically the snow biome. And we're down here, I believe. We're down here in the... Nope, we're in the... This is the north side. Okay, so this is the northeast side, which is basically what we are seeing here on the right side. We're in this town area here. We see this little burnt forest. Yeah, this is the burnt forest area. So you can see it's definitely the same map. And, you know, you would definitely have a really large city here because that's what we configured. We wanted to have a larger city. And as we go around here, we'll see this is the whole map. It is a small one because it's only a 4K map. But it looks definitely so much better than what you get from just a vanilla generation because you get a lot more. No. Oh, whew. Ooh, almost died there. You get something that doesn't look like this. Instead, you get something that looks like this. And look at how big a difference it is. For me personally, playing with something which has biomes which are a little bit more organic looking and sort of spread out is so much better than this ugly blob where you go like, if I want snow, I always have to go to the southeast. I want, you know, wasteland, I always have to go northwest, and desert is always in the east, which is, it's just terrible. This is so much better. So what I would suggest, you go and download this, run it, and just generate a few different maps. And I would start with a 4K map where you can actually change the settings into something that you actually like. So you can see how, you know, how large do you want the lakes to be, you know, the size of the wasteland, how many towns and cities do you want to have. And once you have that sort of configured in a way that you're sort of comfortable with it, you know, including, for instance, the border. Let's see, what is this border? Border. What does it say? Border type, mountain. Like, do you want to have mountain? Do you want to have water? Do you want flat? And which biome do you want to have? And stuff like that. Once you're done with that, then increase the size. Let's say you want to play on 8K, and then you generate that one, because then at least you know how the general distribution of cities and how the biomes and everything is going to look. And then you start playing with that one. And that's a really, really good tool for you to use to generate really nice maps. Thank you very much, Kingslayer. I do appreciate you giving out this really nice tool for us to play with, because it's something that makes the game a lot more interesting. I will be leaving all the links in the description of the video below, so it should be easy for you to locate and get into it. If you enjoyed this guide, why not make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the video, and maybe give a comment in your section below what you think about this and other generation tools that are available for 7 Days to Die. I'll catch you next time.
Special thanks to the great patrons supporting the channel. If you would like to join the Vedui community and support these videos, do follow the Patreon link.